football and shoulder. They had to go into the city and get it corrected. But not his pitching. It was his right shoulder.
How's he doing? How'd it go?
Good. He's already on his way back.
And unclench my hands.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our November Legislative Committee meeting. Let us go around the room before we... let's salute the American flag first, and then we'll... I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. What I would like to do is go around the room and introduce ourselves. We have a lot of new faces here tonight. We started.
Hi, I'm Mike Miles. I'm from EAPSAS.
Eddie Mann, EAPSAS.
Joshua Benitez, social work intern for BOCES.
Jared Omarkov, Sequoia High School graduate, Suffolk BOCES.
I'm Jared's father, cabinet maker.
Eva Mangella, student at Sequoia High School.
Caitlin Mulroney, student at Sequoia High School.
You go.
Donna Pisano, I take the Law Enforcement 2 class here at BTC.
Jill Hamill, the food prep teacher at Ward Farm Center.
Hi, Vinny Iorio, assistant principal at Sequoia High School.
Kyle McAlee, special educator at Sequoia High School.
Teresa Trejo, parent of the BOCES school.
Meg Leach, I'm a PR specialist at the students at the BOCES.
Pat McCabe, I'm the administrator for communications.
I believe we have two parents also at the end here. Yeah.
Charles Monette, owner operator. My son is Charles Monette.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm Donna Pisano.
Thank you. We'll start at that end.
I'm Andrew Myers, I'm a student at Sequoia High School.
George Tires, parent.
Charles Manette, animal science 1 student.
Dylan Spinella, Brentwood graduate, Animal Science 1 student.
Leah Arnold, director of CTE for Eastern Suffolk BOCES.
Stan McAleese, principal here at Big Swing Technical Center.
Jim Beck, president of the unit that represents all the teachers and paras with the Bs, and I'm a special ed teacher over at Sequoia High School.
Heidi Gervasi,
Ashley Travassi, I go to Animal Science 1 at BTC.
I'm Katie Thomas, special education teacher, Sequoia High School.
Brianna Russell, student at Sequoia High School.
Kathy Mowry, executive assistant and chief operating
And I'm Julie Lutz, Chief Operating Officer, Eastern Suffolk BOCES.
And I'm Bill Miller, Vice President of the Board and also Chairperson of the Legislative Committee. Can we please all review the minutes of October 15th? We'll need an acceptance of the minutes.
For the minutes.
Okay, we need a second. Have a second. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Acceptance of the minutes are now booked. Acceptance. Dr. Lutz?
Okay. So we are so excited to have Lisa Mangiello, one of our very own teachers, here to speak with you tonight. Lisa is also probably has been one of the most supportive teachers of the Legislative Committee. We're also really excited to be live streaming this, so people not only who can't be here tonight can see it, but also when it's then on a YouTube channel. So if people want to watch it again or want to watch it at a time other than this evening. And for the first time, we have the opportunity for people to ask us questions if they're live streaming it. So Pat McCabe down there is going to be monitoring questions. But for those of you who don't know Ms. Mangiello, and I know that many of you do because you were in her class or are in her class, she's been an instructor here with Eastern Suffolk BOCES since 2008. She began her career here as an instructor in the Adult Education Animal Science program and is now an instructor in the Academy Animal Science program right here at the Bixhorn Tech Center. In addition to having her teacher certification, Lisa has had her state license as a veterinary technician since 2001. Prior to working in education, Lisa managed 2 veterinary hospitals, one of which she started from the ground up. She is an active member of the Community Legislative Committee as well as a participant at both the Longwood Legislative Breakfast and BOCES Advocacy Day. She began as a building union representative in 2015 and has thoroughly enjoyed learning and growing from the experience. This July, Lisa joined the executive board of the BOCES Educators of Eastern Suffolk BOCES Bees as the membership secretary, in addition to being a delegate for both the American Federation of Teachers and the New York State United Teachers. In March, Lisa attended the National Policy Seminar, a national CTE advocacy conference held through the Association for Career and Technical Education. This gave her the opportunity to advocate on a national level. In her spare time, Lisa enjoys spending time with family, volunteering at a local wildlife rescue, and staying active in the veterinary field. She resides in Selden with her 2 children, Ava and Vincent, 3 dogs, 1 cat, and the regular animal visitors that require supportive care. So,
Thank you. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you all for being here. It's a little strange to be on the other side of the table, but I'm excited. I don't know if I should start the PowerPoint now.
are you speaking to it?
Kind of, a little. I just wanted to really use it for pictures, but I don't want to turn the lights out at all, because I don't need everybody sleeping.
Is your PowerPoint up?
Okay, so
I'll do it.
You sure? So thank you all for coming out, and I know usually I'm seated on the other side of the table. I know that it's very, very exciting for me to be here, and initially I have to admit that the task was a little daunting because I thought to myself, so if you look at the lineup regularly, and for those of you that attend, we have local legislators come, we have state legislators come, we have the comptroller and the sheriff and all of these people in our communities that come in. And when I was initially asked to speak, I thought to myself, like, man, what is it that I'm going to bring to the table tonight to make a part of this meeting? And then I realized that actually is really the topic that I came to talk about, and the big piece of my involvement. So the message that I hope that you get from tonight is that everybody's piece in advocacy is very, very important. I've learned that a lot through my role here, both at Eastern Suffolk BOCES and being a part of the Community Legislative Committee. I wanted to share some pictures with you guys also, because some of the stuff that I have done because of getting involved has been really, really amazing to be a part of, and the growth that I've personally felt is huge. So I'm going to just start with a little bit of my background, just so you know where I came from and how I got here and why CTE is of so much value to me. So for those of you that are a little less familiar with the structure of Eastern Suffolk BOCES, there's a lot of different components. So you heard people introducing themselves as social workers and special education teachers and support staff. Then we have our parents and our students. Career and technical education is one component of what Eastern Suffolk BOCES provides as a service to the 51 component districts that we service. Our career and tech ed classes is where students come primarily to study trades, and that's what my role is here. But I didn't start here. So like a lot of high school students, and some of you that may even be sitting in this room right now, in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to be. I always still to this day say, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I'm still working on it. I'm definitely a work in progress, and the more I get involved and the more I learn about myself, the more I try to find my niche and where I feel like I'm doing my part. So I started in the veterinary profession because after I graduated high school, I didn't want to go straight to college. I was working in a communications company back when beepers were a thing, for those of you that were around then. And I was like, what do I even like? And I'd always loved animals, just like a lot of the students that come to my class. And so just like all of those students, I was like, well, I guess I have to go to veterinary medicine, because that's what you do if you love animals. So I started from the ground floor. I worked my way, starting from a kennel position, worked my way up to an assistant, and I changed practices because I wanted to get more experience working with exotics. I wound up transitioning from assisting into doing the behind-the-scenes work as a technician, and that's when I realized that if I wanted to do a good job for my patients, I had to go to college. If I wanted to save lives, I had to know what I was doing. And that was really the the ticket that started me on the path to college. I pursued my degree at Suffolk Community College in Brentwood, where a lot of my students go, because that's really one of the only vet tech schools here on Long Island. Now they have a couple of more of them, which is nice, because it's a very, very in-demand field. We always have a shortage of technicians, like a lot of our trades, which is something I'm definitely going to be talking about tonight. And when I went for my license, I worked in the field in exotics and emergency medicine for a point, but then my salary kind of capped out and I needed some room for growth because by then I had gotten married and I had a family. So I decided to go for practice management. I managed a small practice through a growth period, and then the doctor that I worked for bought the shopping center and then bought another hospital. So I opened a practice in Ridge from the ground up, which was a huge learning curve because you learn a lot about town regulations and all of those super fun things that come with practice management. It was several years after that, it was about 2 years after that, I was talking to one of my girlfriends that I had graduated college with from the vet tech program. And I'm like, what are you up to? And she said, I'm teaching now. And I was like, what are you teaching? And she says, I teach at Nassau BOCES, and I'm in a small animal care program. I went, wow, that's really cool. I didn't even know they had that. And that was the first spark of education that I didn't even realize that that was an option for me. So I started to look into opportunities, and in 2007 I started in a temporary position at Nassau BOCES in the Vet Sci program. And then in 2008 came to Eastern Suffolk BOCES in adult education in the spring, and then later in the year, that fall, I was offered a full-time daytime position. So that's eventually how I got to education. And I really feel like I found my home here because not only do I get to work with the animals that I love, but I also get to prepare students to go out into the world and pursue their passions as well. So a big piece of the foundation of how I've kind of modeled my career and my thought process about where I want to be in the world is I have to pursue something that I am passionate about. I know that about myself. I can't just wake up and have a job. I have to do something that I love. I have to do something that I feel strongly about, where I feel like I'm making a difference. I pursued that working with animals, and they always tell us, even as we go through school, just know you're never going to be rich, and that's okay. Like, we know when we work with animals, it's a labor of love. You're never going to be rich, and I definitely bought that ticket when I went for that career. And even being in education, I have found a place that I am really passionate about, because not only am I getting to help the animals, because I am educating those students to go out there into the workforce and do that same work, but I also get to make connections with so many students every single year, which is such an incredible opportunity. And when I get to share some of the work that they're out there doing, the advocacy piece is just, it's like the icing on the cake. It's a model of just showing the great work we're already doing. So for those of you that don't know exactly what the goal of CTE is, in career and technical education classes, it's not just about pursuing a career. Yes, we are preparing students for the workforce. Yes, we want them to get them successful and to get them ready to go out and to have the skills for a trade. But another big component of what we're doing is also providing the academic piece of that and the college preparation. A lot of our classes have New York State credits embedded for English or science or math. A lot of them have college articulation agreements. They have joint enrollment. So a lot of people just don't realize the advantages that their child can gain from going through a CTE program. And that's something that I think in the advocacy work, when we're doing that piece and we're going up and we're speaking with state legislators, or even when I had the opportunity to go on a federal level, it's saying, you should really see what we're doing. You should really see what students have the opportunity to do in their high school years alone. I say this every single day, and from the day I got here, the first time I walked around this building, I thought to myself, like, wow, high school students are doing all of these incredible things. And I still, when I get the opportunity to tour some of what our students are doing or see the work that they're doing, I said, man, I can't believe these kids are doing that, and they're only in high school. So as part of our programs, we have work-based learning. That's another component. A big piece of CTE is tying into the workforce itself. So being a part of the Community Legislative Committee has opened a lot of doors. And so in a couple of these pictures that you're going to see, former Assembly Member Dean Murray is in here. And through the work that we were doing, he came in to tour our building. The advocacy piece is important because our legislators are the ones making the decisions about what happens in education, how things are funded. That really determines what opportunities our students will have. And you know, when I sit up here, most of you are going to expect me to sit here and say great things about the program because I'm going to, because I love it, and I'm pretty sure you all can see that. The students speak for themselves when they come in and they talk about what they're doing, but nothing speaks better than showing it in real time. To be able to have somebody that's a decision maker come into our building and really see the work that we do. Even as parents, when you have the opportunity to come in for a day or hear about what your student is doing in our building every day, you get to really see the value and the passion that lies there. So some of the other programs that we have, happens to be aviation, so they took a tour in the flight simulator, which yes, high school students actually work on during their days. There are high school students that go out to the flight lines, and during their school day they are flying planes. These are sometimes students that don't have a license to drive a car, but they are out there flying a plane. So that is pretty incredible. I would not recommend the flight simulator, though, if you get motion sickness. Just a heads up, it's not my strong point in the building. He also toured art and design, and you don't know where these legislators, a lot of them have had or still have other careers. Part of his position, he owns a printing company, and this is our art and design teacher. And so as he was touring the building and coming through, seeing the opportunities, that created the opportunity for him to network with some of our students and open doors for some of them. So when you're coming to meetings like this, a lot of students are sitting in the building and they may be coming to our special education programs or coming to our CTE programs, and they're thinking like, why would I come to the community legislative meeting? What purpose would it serve for me? And the answer is getting involved in your community is very, very important. It opens a lot of doors. You make a lot of networks and connections. And as you're graduating high school and you turn 18, you have a major civic role, and being knowledgeable about voting and your participation and who to contact when you have problems are all things you can learn here through these meetings. So Advocacy Day is kind of how I got my start here. It all started before the first community legislative meeting. I was sitting in a faculty meeting, and right before winter break, it was on the announcements that it was formally called Lobby Day. We have Lobby Day when we get back, and the people are going up to Albany, and I think it was year 6 for me, or 6 or 7, and I raised my hand and I said, excuse me, I know it sounds a little ignorant, but what is Lobby Day? And the response was, oh, you want to go? And I went, I can go, but if you tell me what it is, it was really helpful. So that was actually, I had learned about it 2 weeks before my first trial run. And this is why I'll tell you that participation is so very important, even for the adults. I wound up going to my first Lobby Day, and that was when I really got to meet a lot of my colleagues from other buildings. It was during my first Lobby Day that I actually met Jim Beck when I was sitting on the bus, and I wanted to be a fly on the wall. I said, going up to Lobby Day, I was like, I wouldn't even know what to say to legislators. What could I possibly say to them? And I just wanted to stand in the back of the room and kind of see the show as it unraveled. And so we're standing in the room during the first introduction in a state senator's office, and I'll definitely admit that it was not what I expected. It was it was not like TV. But we get in there, we're all introducing ourselves, and I said, hi, I'm Lisa Mangiello, I teach the animal science program, and they're like, oh, and automatically people start talking about their pets. The minute you mention animal science, it's like, oh, and I have this dog, and he has this thing, and that literally, and I watched it happen with other trades, like plumbing, when you mention a plumber, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can never get a plumber to call me back, and we're like, we're making so many of them, just call us. So sitting in the rooms, I really began to understand that there was something so much bigger. I got to meet people from other buildings. That opened a ton of doors that I never even really thought was a possibility. I hadn't even begun to think of those things. I didn't know they were available. And that was really the catalyst for all of my involvement, which, as you'll see, really has expanded upon that. I don't know if you can tell, I am a big CTE advocate. I love the work I do. I love seeing what my colleagues are doing. I love seeing the growth of my students, all of the opportunities that they have. They're doing the most incredible things. This is one of the coolest careers you could ever imagine, and I have the opportunity to see so many students go on to reach such amazing goals and to play a very small role in it, but as I watch, like, I see some of my graduates sitting here, and I love knowing that I am a piece of that, and sharing that message with decision makers has become a very, very important piece of one thing that I plan to continue doing in my career. So what is advocacy? We had a whole meeting on this, for those of you that weren't there for it. No, it was a while ago, but when you're advocating, and that was where I wanted to tie in, when I was first asked to speak here, I was like, what is it that I could possibly bring? This is it, guys. This is it. The answer is, you don't have to be anything special to be an advocate. You don't have to feel like you know everything about everything. You don't have to be the authority on anything. You have to know what's important. You have to know where the challenges are, and you have to be able to say those things in front of people that make decisions. That's really the foundation of what advocacy is. And that's I hope, why I got asked to be here. I really think that that's such an integral piece. So one of the things that I've learned when we're sitting with a lot of these policymakers, and you'll see them at our legislative meetings, one of the things they'll always tell you is they cannot know everything about everything. They are making decisions on so many different things, and there is no way for them to know all of the intricate workings of all of the different systems that they're making decisions on. Anybody sitting in this room, anybody watching, anybody listening, can be an advocate if they're in a field, or even if they're in a personal situation. We've had town people come in and talk about, health care for people that are elderly. There's so many roles that advocacy plays a piece. You have a role there. Every single person sitting in here does. So you too can be an advocate. That's pretty much exactly the piece that I think is most important to share for this evening. As I step into more advocacy, I've kind of realized that this is a bigger role that I want a part of. I hope that the students sitting here recognize that sitting at this meeting, you can start here. There's bigger pieces you can do. You can get involved locally. Through Eastern Suffolk BOCES, we go to the Longwood Legislative Breakfast, which I'll show you. We go up to Albany, and you have a lot of opportunities. So our first legislative meeting, which is in the next pictures, you're already starting your journey. If you're sitting here, you're already one foot in the door. For the parents that have come out tonight with your students, thank you so much for attending and learning about the work that we're doing and how you can also get involved. Your voice matters. Everybody sitting in here has a big role to play, and I hope that after this you recognize the importance of that. I never thought about the different doors that it would open for me, and I can clearly show that everything that I've done here has opened a new door. You'll see that in the next couple of slides. So we started with Kate Browning back in 2016, and I have to thank Mr. Miller for coming from Longwood with the passion for the legislative committee that he had and bringing it here. Sitting in the first meeting, I didn't know what to expect. And as I got to meet all of the people, I began to see even a bigger piece of my civic role locally, and getting involved. And I thank you so much, because I've really grown so much as a person from having the opportunity to do this. So thank you.
We thank you.
So, this is where it all began. Kate Browning was our first speaker. And then as this has grown, Eastern Suffolk BOCES has been involved in the Longwood Legislative Breakfast for, I'm sure, much longer than I have. But sitting at the first legislative breakfast, what happens is local school districts all get together. They sit with our local legislators on a panel, and many of your school districts have a seat at tables there, and they have the opportunity to discuss the things that are challenges for their districts, and then they get to watch the people that are in office respond to how they view that situation, or how they plan to fix it, or what's going on in legislation. These students sitting in the room, if you look around, some of these students will be the students that are sitting there this February with the opportunity to speak to these legislators. So when you're wondering where this involvement can take them, it can open more doors for them. The biggest piece that the students have to share is their experience here. When we ask the students to get involved, we're just asking them to tell whether they come from special education or from career and technical education. We're asking them to share the great work that we're doing here, so that we can get continued support through legislative roles. So you'll see that's Andrew Garbarino. I know it's funny, because as I looked back at these pictures, a lot of these people in these pictures have come through the legislative committee meetings as speakers themselves. They are always, I will tell you, they like to talk to us. They love to talk to our students. They absolutely love hearing the experience of our students, and to see, if you think about yourself, for the adults sitting in here, if you think about yourself as a high school student, and whether or not you might have put yourself out on that limb to take a role in speaking to a state legislator, I promise you, a lot of the students that wind up doing it never thought they'd be doing it, and yet they're doing it in high school. And then when you see from start to finish the growth in them, it's absolutely incredible. Advocacy Day, which was the former lobby day that I was speaking about, is where we take the students, we take them up to Albany for the day, so we all get on a coach bus at an unreasonably early hour. It is so early. No, it is very early, and it gets 10 minutes earlier every year. So if you're coming, just know that you have to get up 10 minutes earlier than last year. And
But you didn't tell them the time.
right. I don't even like to think of the time. So you get up, but we get on the bus, we all go together. So it is our teachers, it is our paraprofessionals, sometimes even the custodial staff, administrators, people from all different roles that help Eastern Suffolk BOCES be the great place that it is, and our students. And we all go up there for the day, and we have the opportunity to meet with our different state legislators through various meetings that we're committed to. And we get to tell them our piece of the story. We get to tell them what we're doing really well so they can see the great work that we're doing. We get to tell them the challenges that we're facing and where we need help doing the work that we love doing, how we provide more students with the opportunities to get the education that they need. This is the really big piece of what we're doing when we go up to Advocacy Day. For some of you sitting in here, you could be those people in February. It's February 26th this year. This was last year's Advocacy Day. We had some of our culinary students bake cookies that we delivered to the professionals in the offices there. It is such a fun day. It's chaotic. It's super chaotic. So we take this long bus ride up there, and then we literally run through the state capitol. It feels very quick, And sometimes we get the opportunity to tour the Capitol itself with the students, but my favorite part is the part that leads up to that. So I have the opportunity, along with several other staff members in other buildings, to help prepare the students that are going. And we get to help them know what they want to say and kind of organize a speech, because we don't get a lot of time in those rooms. And as you get to see the students go through the process, now, shockingly, like me, many of them are not the world's greatest public speakers, or they don't love public speaking. And so sometimes you even see full-blown tears during the practice rounds. They don't want to talk. We work them through the whole process, and by the time they get up there and they do those speeches, and I'm telling you, any professional that is sitting in this room that has had the opportunity to sit with those students and watch them speak, there is nothing that compares to hearing their stories. When I go out in my meetings, I'm not always with the students that I've prepared, and I get to sit with other people's students. And even last year, like one of those kids that I had never met before, the things that they were saying literally brought tears to my eyes. We do the most incredible work, and nothing beats that. We could go up there and talk, but showing that emotion, showing those experiences is really where I think we best make our points. Through this also, and this was another side piece that wound up happening on a whim, so through my involvement one day in my mailbox, and I have to thank our assistant principal who couldn't be here tonight, Ms. Zergabel. One day, I guess she had gotten a mailer for ACTE, which is the Association of Career and Technical Educators. And it was for a conference called NPS, which is a National Policy Seminar. It's located in Washington, D.C., and it's a national event where CTE teachers and organizations come from all over the United States, and they meet with our national legislators. So it was my first time in D.C., my first time on Amtrak. That was super fun. I felt like a real adult as I navigated this trip. Going there, I had no idea what to expect. Thinking of going to Albany and the rush and the excitement of meeting with those legislators, and then seeing it on the level of a national. Now, not only are you navigating one building, but you actually go between 3 buildings. Like, there was a moment in my meeting times during this seminar where I actually had to run across the White House lawn. Like, it was just like a movie. It was very cool. And there was one time I was running back across the White House lawn, but I had to detour because the president's motorcade was in the way. So that was cool. I didn't get to see anything, but it was very, very cool. Going to NPS was a great opportunity because, again, it opened a whole bunch of doors that I didn't know were there. So I was able to collaborate with professionals from all over the United States. I also got to connect with our state professionals, so I got involved with NISACTE, which is the New York State Association for Career and Technical Educators, and they have a lot of great work that they're doing here in New York State, which I'll talk about the roles that I've taken on there. But we had the opportunity as New York State to sit together and talk about the challenges that we have. We organized, and then we got to meet with a lot of our legislators that represent New York State, but at our nation's capital. So during that day, we were this is at Chuck Schumer's office. We went to Senator Gillibrand's office. We had a very, very, very packed, busy schedule. And I'll tell you, you think to yourself when you're going into these rooms that what could you possibly bring to the table? And I'll tell you, it really does make a difference. I would encourage all of you to do it. So my current leadership roles now, going from a veterinary technician all the way up through the roles, coming into education, and I was a really happy animal science teacher. Like, had you just left me in animal science, I was doing really well. I really liked that job. Now that I know that I can advocate for students on a bigger level and advocate for education and be involved on a bigger level, now that's obviously a goal. It's something that I really love doing. In the building, I get to lead the preparation for the students that are coming up to Advocacy Day with us. As they mentioned in the intro, getting involved in our union and taking on a role there was a piece that kind of stems from that first lobby day. I've stepped into the role of the government relations co-chair for NICE-ACT, which is really neat because I actually will be working with the lobbyist who represents the organization on a state level, and so I get to learn a lot about the policies and the current legislation that's happening, what they need from us. Not that a lot of you may be aware, but CTE is funded through Perkins. There was a lot of recent changes. Those are all the talks that are on the table, and they're asking for input from educators, and those educators that are involved, you get to play a role in those things, and you get to do a bigger piece. And even as parents and community members, they're asking for your feedback too, just so you know. That's another big piece of that. And then I also, I plan to remain an active community legislative committee member because I'm so thankful for the different opportunities that I've expanded on from there. So I want to stay involved. Advocacy is a big piece. Recently, I made a decision about my next step. So as we're all, even for our students, they're wondering what their next step is. What am I going to do when I leave high school? Where am I going to go to college? What am I going to pursue? I don't know that in this changing world where technology is constantly changing and the workforce is evolving, that any of us ever are going to be in one place all the time. But I thought to myself, what do I want my next step to be? And I really thought about the things that I love. I love being in my classroom. I love being with my students. You can ask any of my students. I'm a little crazy, but I think they like me. And I love being in the classroom, but I also really think the advocacy piece is really important. So a big portion of what I plan to do, as a parent, I have an opportunity to see this from two different levels. When I'm working on the advocacy piece, I see the role as an educator. That one's easy. I'm also the parent of a student that goes to Sequoia High School here. I'm also the parent of a student that goes to our CTE programs here. I'll tell you, seeing the work that we do from the educator standpoint is one thing. Seeing it from the parental standpoint is a whole different thing. I really see the growth and the change that my colleagues are doing. I knew they were doing a great job, but now I really know it because I see it in my own child. I can't, that's the message when we go up to the offices that I like to try to bring there. And the other piece I want to focus on is educational policy because I think that it's important to be involved. So those leadership roles are something I'm definitely looking to stay with. And just putting out there that your voice, your role, it really, really, really plays a big, big piece. And I hope that I've been able to make that point to you tonight. So I'd like to open the floor to any questions, because I know that it is quiet in here. And I have done a lot of talking. But does anybody have any questions about what it is that we do, what the advocacy work looks like?
Here's a question. How do you get your students involved in advocacy?
How
does the topic come about in the day to day?
It sounds like me going, tonight's the community legislative meeting, and then as soon as tomorrow happens, I'm like, guys, next month, this is the date for the community legislative meeting, and some of our, I see parents of graduates and graduates here, and I keep in contact with them as well, and try to get that message out there. I think once they get involved, they see the value, but I am constantly, what I would like to do is start it earlier in the year and get more students involved in other programs, because I think if they can just see one time what we do, I think it will really help with the buy-in. For them to see the value that happens here. So I initially started this by saying in the animal field, animals don't have a voice, right? And so we have to be their voice, and we do that through advocacy and through legislation. Our students also need strong advocates, and our students need not only to have strong advocates, they need to become strong advocates, and this is the way to do it.
And your students have been a strong component of this legislative committee.
Yes.
Since this start.
Yeah,
and we thank you for that also.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I see them sitting out there. I think my favorite piece is watching the start to finish, watching how they grow. I thought about, honestly, one of the things I thought about when I was doing this tonight was actually sharing some of their experiences with you, just because I know that as much as I can say I love doing this, they show it. They show it.
Would anyone want to share, the students?
Joe, help me out.
He's always voice.
I don't have a favorite.
I came to Miss Mangiela's class 2 years ago. I came in my junior year. I came from a very small private school in Santa Mauritius. And it's a small Christian school, so I live on the property of the school because my dad is a pastor there. So I never been on a school bus before. I had never been outside that school. I was there since kindergarten. So when I went to animal science, I went to Miss Mangiela's class. I didn't speak. I sat in the corner. I didn't talk at all. And so just the process of her nudging me to come to one of these, it was just like, I was like, all right, sure, I would come. So I came to one, and I didn't understand a single word of what was being said in the game. But for some reason, I was like, I like it. It's cool. My dad went with me, and he understood a lot of it, and I didn't. And so he was like, oh, you should go to more. So I was like, all right, I'm going to keep going. Eventually, I went to the legislative breakfast in Longwood. And so I watched just being able to see the legislators there. I didn't know like that's something that you could actually do. Like for me, I didn't like politics. I didn't like anything like that. Even when I had to take it in like school, I just wasn't interested. And just the fact that they were so like accessible, like you could be able to talk to them. Like they were just seeing that they were people. Like that was awesome. And so I decided to go to the Albany for the advocacy day, and just tell them my story of where I started and then where I ended. And so I decided to do it the following year for my senior year. And from there, just the transformation for myself, seeing where I wouldn't speak to anyone, and then seeing that I'm talking to legislators about my experiences. And then I decided to run for president that year. And so I encouraged a lot of people to go. And just watching them, like other people who had their own experiences, go and speak in front of legislators, it was just awesome. And so it really was because like she just decided, she was like, you have to try. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try. So I know there's a lot of other students here, and I don't know where you're at, but I started in a spot where I was like, I'm not doing anything. I was like by myself, and very like awkward situation where I was like, I've never been on a school bus. And then to the point where I was able to speak to legislators, got to tell them about my experiences. Also, my sister, she has a hard time academically with certain like subjects, and she was able to join the culinary school, the culinary program in the Riverhead campus, and she just excels there. She's like, it's the first time I've been able to learn and not feel like I had like a disability. Like she's like, I've been able to just learn. So she went to the advocacy day last year, and she was able to tell her story. And so I've never seen such a big smile on her face about her talking about the school. So that was just fantastic for me. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other students would like to share a story?
I haven't prepared them yet. Just
Come in March. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank
All right,
you.
so what I'd like to know is, and you know I have a graduate, and I have my little daughter's in school now. Have you? Oh,
Teresa doesn't need that. It's okay.
What have you guys done to try to encourage the high schools to have the students come here? Because my second daughter that's here, third daughter, whatever one. Anyway, there was no opportunity for a personal trainer, and that's what she wanted to do. So I had to persuade them that this is what I wanted my daughter to do. And they're like, well, she should do more AP classes, the same thing she did with my other daughter. Are you reaching out to these schools and letting them know the impact that it has, because I mean, I see it with Nadia, who graduated, and she's second year in college, and she's doing unbelievable, but she had this foundation so that when she went to college, she really liked what she was doing, so she's just, expanded. Now, my other daughter is doing personal training, but maybe she doesn't like it. Like, everybody, she's big into sports. Everyone's like, oh, be a personal trainer, be a physical therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's kind of getting something to see if she even likes it. She might end up being an accountant, but at least she's using her time in high school for something she thinks she wants to do. But if she doesn't like it, then I don't have to wait till she gets to college
And pay for
and
it.
spend that money and find out that that's not what she wants to do. So, but my point is that I want to know, what are you guys doing to really inform this high school that BOCES is not for special ed? Because that's what everyone kind of has in their.
That's true. I heard that from other parents.
Well, we
if
do.
your child doesn't have a disability, they don't want to let you in the program.
We do go out to districts. We have a lot of meetings where we go out. We bring our counselors out. We bring staff members out. We have our PTA dinner where we invite people in to come see what it is that we're doing. And again, it's sharing that message and those experiences with the districts. And we send home, or not home, but we send to districts flyers regularly. There's a mailer that goes out that tells them all of the things that the students from their districts are accomplishing here, what opportunities that they have. We have, just the other day, I saw administrators from one of the high schools that sends come through here. It was the principal and both assistant principals took the time out of their day to come see what it is that we're doing, and I will tell you that when they come see what we do, our programs, our doors are always open. We encourage people to come see what we're doing as often as they'll let us come to see them. We go out there and we see them. We invite them here for meetings, for breakfast. Am I missing anything? I feel Visitors Day. We host Visitors Day, which the districts have the opportunity to participate in, where they can send students to come see what we do, but also send their guidance staff.
I think it's the guidance counselors.
We have our district contact meetings where the guidance counselors and administrators can come and they talk about what it is that we're doing. So there is a lot of outreach. The way that it works is that districts decide how they choose to utilize services. So it's not that we're not providing the services. It's just a choice of the individual districts as to what they choose to use. But we are always trying to put our best foot forward and show the work that our students are doing, because as a parent, I'm sure you know, they're doing really great things. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't believe that. So I'm trying really hard to keep up and get that message out there. It's getting the message across, letting these students show what they're doing, and just continue to show the value of what our career and technical education programs hold for opportunities for all students.
Because they do get college credits too. I mean, both of my daughters both have college credits, but it seemed like when you sit down with the guidance counselors, they
could be an individual guidance counselor.
Yeah. But they should really be informed. They should come and see, because I think if they come and see, like Dean Murray said was here and he saw that, I think if they see it, maybe it'll, they'll pass it on to other students and it spreads. Because I think it's a great opportunity.
Oh, I agree with you.
That.
Yes, no, thank you.
No, I'm just wondering, is there any way you could invite principals and guidance counselors from other school districts, from district school districts?
Oh, we do.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we do. Yeah, we have district contact meetings.
Because I was at one meeting just like this. It was one of these meetings, and a mother was telling me she had a horror story because her son had really good grades, and he wanted to get into a technical class, and the principal fought tooth and nail to keep him out of it because he wasn't special.
Well, we have, it's not,
It was sad because she finally did it, but she really had to fight, really for a while.
It is the advocacy component on the parents' part and how districts choose to utilize it, but we can keep demonstrating the great work that we're doing, what the value is in individual programs, showing the graduates that we have here. I mean, you're sitting here, you see them, and I know that you come because you recognize... Yeah, you recognize the great. You're the people we need. That's the exact voice that we need. That's why when they asked me to speak, and I said, "Man, what do I have to bring to this? You're it. You're equal right here. You could sit up here and do this talk. How about next time?"
There's simple things that people can do now and today to advocate, right? Sharing posts or on social media, the things that promote the programs and showcase the students' work. Providing 100 people and your 100 people know 100 people, and that can spread quickly. So all of spreading the good news of what happens in your own networks, your peers, your parents' friends, will go a long way.
And this is the third meeting that we're streaming also, so it's on our website.
So, several years ago, probably more than several years ago now, maybe 5 or 7 years ago, we did a whole lot of work into kind of investigating how students end up coming to CTE, who are the decision makers, where are the roadblocks, and what became very apparent is the best advocates for CTE are the students who are either in it or who have gone through it, and the parents.
Yep.
Because districts, whether it be the high school principal or the guidance counselor, whoever it is who's making the decision, they listen to parents and students because you can speak to the impact that it has had on your own life or on the life of your child, or it's really key. And just like Lisa said, when we go up to Albany, elected officials would much rather hear from students than hear from the adults because you tell a story that really is about a life change. So
I think some of the district principals and guidance counselors are biased on BOCES, honestly, to be frank.
Well, let me tell you what...
It's much bigger than that.
So there is this premise, this belief on Long Island that success is a 4-year college education, right? So let me just say that we are all Long Islanders, right? And we are learning, if you pay attention, that certainly is not the case. First of all, there are many jobs out there that we can't fill that don't really need a college education. But I think more importantly, some misinformation, right, is this assumption that individuals who go to CTE don't go to college.
Right.
80 to 90% of the students who come through the CTE programs here go on to college. So that is a fact that every single one of you can go tell 10 people that, not only do they go to college, but they are more likely to be successful. That is what the data shows. Individuals who come from CTE programs are more likely to be successful in college and more likely to be employed when they get out. So all of you who are in a position to make a decision about a child and what they're going to do with their life, remember that. So, and that's information that high school guidance counselors and high school principals, although they hear it, that is not necessarily, I think, what they believe. So, and that's just not Eastern Suffolk BOCES data. That is national data, that's state data, because exactly what you guys have spoken about. When you get a passion about something you're interested in, and then you go on to study it, it makes sense, right? It all comes together, right? You're not in college trying to figure out what you want to study. You're studying something that you already know you have a love and an interest and a skill set for. So.
And the students get to do it firsthand before they even get to college.
Yeah.
Right. In a CTE class, as she was mentioning before, not every student that goes to a CTE program is going to pursue that specific career, but that in and of itself is a success because at least you're not going off to college and spending, how much money on a degree and then deciding to change your minds midway, unless your parents are inherently wealthy, you know. But no, but it's a good opportunity for them to earn. They can earn college credits through our class to get the career exploration, the foundational skills alone that we teach in our classes, just the basic professionalism, and that's something they take everywhere. So we're really setting the groundwork for success for whatever they choose when they move on. And yes, that is a message we definitely need to continue to spread.
Any other questions? Did you have a question again? No? Oh, you think you wanted to talk again, right? No.
Thanks, Joe.
I have two comments I'd like to share from the chat.
Yeah,
First is
do you want a mic?
a student of the CTE program who graduated in 1986 says he is still consistently impressed with the quality of our programs.
That's
And
awesome.
another comment with 5 exclamation points says, "Yay, Mangiello!"
Thank you.
I would concur.
Yeah.
I'll be
Excellent job.
Well, thank you.
Exclamation point.
Thank you very
Thank you so much for
All right.
Before we wrap up the program tonight, I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Our next meeting is December 5th. We will have Senator Monica Martinez of the 3rd District. She represents the town of Brookhaven and Islip. Our lineup is already pretty much finished for the year, and we have a great lineup upcoming. So we have a lot of new people coming in that have been newly elected also, and we have some other assemblymen that will be coming in, and we also have a talk on the census coming in January,
Oh, that's good.
which should be very excellent, because this is the year that they start the census taking again. And it's so important for everybody to do the census because that's part of our school aid. All right. Could I have the students? We have a little thank you to Mrs. Mangello here. Now she's part of the family here.
I made it.
Could I have the students, please? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
How you doing, Joe?
Well, how are you?
My emotional support human got here late. What happened, Joe?
Yeah, guys.
I had dinner tonight with Joe Snow.
Got it all squeezed in. Everybody here? Oh.
We have more.
Somebody want to sit up front? Maybe a few people sit up front? Yeah.
There's so many students.
Wow, this is good.
Want 2 more sit?
Thank you, Charles. All right, to all of my students standing here, thank you so much. Thank you for your moral support. I appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, well, take one with our students, okay? You don't need me. Go ahead.
Next to the other one.